Hello there guys, what's going on? I'm Bryn, I'm the Game Survivor, and if you've been a follower of my channel for a little while now, you'll know that the AK-5C is one of my favourite weapons in the game. It's got an excellent rate of fire, it's pretty accurate, it's one of the more accurate carbines out there, it's got pretty manageable recoil, and it's downright one of the best weapons in the game in my opinion. It's certainly one of the most popular out there in the Battlefield metagame at this time. So since I use it so often, I decided to shake it up a little bit and bring you guys a video to see whether the AK-5C is comparable in any way to a sniper rifle or a DMR. And the way I did that is I set myself two rules. I had to follow these criteria at all times. I had to put a 4x scope, the highest magnification for the AK-5C, on the weapon, and I was only allowed to use single fire mode, so no full auto and no burst fire, even though burst fire isn't actually available for the weapon, it's only single and auto fire modes. So I jumped into Battlefield 4 and played a few matches, and this is what I came up with. I hope you guys enjoy. Now, since putting on a 4x sight was the only stipulation that I'd made for myself in terms of attachments, I was allowed to put on any other modifications to the weapon that I wanted. Now, just FYI, I was using the ACOG sight in this gameplay because that's my personal favourite 4x sight, so I went with that one. Now, since I was using a 4x sight, I thought, okay, I'm going to be wanting to engage the enemy at long ranges, so I'm going to want something that'll boost my long range capability. So I put on the heavy barrel. I also attached a angled foregrip to help reduce that first shot recoil because, well, I suppose every shot is the first shot when you're using single fire. And I met disappointment. It really wasn't working out for me. I wasn't getting very many kills, and the recoil that the heavy barrel was giving the weapon was just ridiculous. It was really, really difficult to control. The reticule, the sight was bouncing all over the place. It was really hard to track moving targets while you were shooting. So I eventually swapped that out for a muzzle brake to help reduce that vertical recoil. And after that, I met a lot more success. I also added a laser light because I found myself really relying on the AK-5C's hipfire capability, even in mid-range combat, because the recoil when you're playing with a 4x sight on a carbine or something, because the recoil and the bounce of the reticule is just really quite over the top, and because of how hard it is to track targets, I found myself relying more and more on the hipfire of the gun in medium range. Obviously, you know, in long range or medium to long range combat, I would still have to use the optics, but I found myself, as you can see from the gameplay, often relying on hipfire to take down enemies at medium range, which was not something I'd expected. I was expecting the AK-5C to really excel quite a lot at medium range with the ACOG sight. It could be because of the fact that I'm using it on single fire mode. If it was on full auto, it might be a little bit easier, but certainly on single fire mode, it was quite difficult to track targets at medium range using the ACOG scope. Now, how does this weapon actually compare to a DMR or a sniper rifle? Well, the short answer is it doesn't. If you want to use a DMR, if you want to play with a DMR, play with a DMR. If you want to play with a sniper, play with a sniper. The AK-5C is certainly no replacement for those. I just wanted to see how they would stack up. To understand why this is the case, we have to look at the weapon's statistics. Now, if you hop onto symphic.com, you can see that the damage over distance on the AK-5C starts with a standard damage model of 25, but it drops down very quickly. It starts dropping down at only 8 meters, and by the time it gets to 50 meters, it's only at 15.4 damage. So that means that anything past mid-range, you're only doing minimum damage. Which is a huge disadvantage. If you have also a look at the number of bullets it takes to kill at certain ranges, at 45 meters, which is, you know, reasonably close, especially for a weapon using an ACOG sight. I mean, you can pick out a target that far away fairly easily with an ACOG scope. It's going to take you 7 bullets to down your enemy. That's huge, especially with a single fire weapon. I mean, if you're running, again, I'm going to use this as a comparison, if you're running with exactly the same setup, but you're using full auto mode, it's going to be far easier to drop your target. But since I'm using single fire mode, I'm at a huge disadvantage. And it means that if anyone has a DMR pointed at me, they're going to win the engagement almost every time. The irony of this loadout is that when you're using the AK-5C with a regular setup without the ACOG and using full auto mode, it's an extremely versatile weapon. It absolutely shreds at short range, medium range it dominates as well, and at long range, you know, it can hold its own. The irony of this setup is that now the tables are completely turned. This is the least versatile setup I have ever used. the weapon just is not capable of killing at speed over distance because of the number of bullets that it takes to down your enemy, and because of that damage drop off. And in short range, because you're only using single fire mode, you're at a disadvantage as well, because if you run up against someone using a PDW or an assault rifle or even the AK-5C in full auto mode, you're going to get decimated every single time. So I found myself having to rely on flanking tactics, making sure I was hidden, and getting the jump on the enemy every single engagement. If the enemy knew where I was at any point, I was a goner. There was simply no way I could hold my own against an enemy shooting at me that knew where I was. I had to get behind them, I had to get to their flank, I had to hide from them, and make sure that they didn't know where I was so they couldn't return fire. I had to kill them before they knew where I was. And that was really, really challenging, but also quite rewarding. If you want to get better at flanking, and remaining hidden from the enemy, this is a good setup to train yourself to do that with. It's certainly, you know, a pretty brutal entry into learning how to do that, but it certainly taught me a lot more about flanking and about using surprise tactics in Battlefield 4. Now, despite the fact that I said this weapon isn't very capable over long distances, I certainly wouldn't play this loadout in something like Operation Lockers. The first few games I played with this weapon, I was playing Team Deathmatch, and I wasn't having a lot of luck. And that's because a lot of the Team Deathmatch maps are quite enclosed, they're very close quarters, and they're very infantry-centric, obviously, because it's Team Deathmatch. Where this weapon really starts to shine is in Conquest, and that's because Conquest is a lot less linear in its gameplay. You can run wherever you want on the map, there's a lot more flanking routes open so that you can get behind the enemy a lot more easily, and you can get the drop on them a lot more easily. In Team Deathmatch, the two teams are pretty much head-to-head at all times. There's only one front of the battle, so to speak, and it's very difficult to flank the enemy successfully without them spotting you. So because there's a lot more players spread out over a lot bigger distance, it's a lot easier to slip through the enemy's net, get behind them, and get some flanking kills. And that's how I started getting some success with this weapon. As you can see, I'm actually managing to snipe some hostiles from a longer distance, which is something I probably wouldn't have been able to do in a Team Deathmatch game mode. Now, to finish off, I certainly would not recommend this loadout for anyone who's concerned about statistics or kill-death ratios, because, yeah, most of the time I wasn't topping the leaderboard. I was still managing to go positive most games, occasionally I wouldn't, but yeah, it's certainly not a loadout that you want to use if you want to absolutely decimate noobs. It's a loadout that you want to use if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to learn more about flanking tactics, and you want to have a bit of fun. And I actually really did enjoy using this loadout. I met some frustration at first and thought, oh god, you know, this is far too difficult. I'm never going to be able to succeed with this loadout. But I did eventually end up having quite a bit of fun. So that's it from me, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know by hitting like and commenting down below. I put a lot of effort into this video, as I do with all of them. And feel free to check out all my other videos. I've got quite a few Battlefield 4 videos out now. They're all good quality, I think, at least. I put out videos 2 or 3 times a week. So yeah, go check out the rest of my channel. That'll be awesome. But until next time, guys, have a good one, and I'll see you later.